What's up YouTube? CJ Extreme here with a commentary video. I know it's been a while, but this one I can assure you will be fun, at least in my opinion, as we're going to talk about anime's WWE adventure in an analysis format, going through different parts and different elements of the story, and I hope you enjoy it. So the original story that I was going to do was going to be maybe 10 episodes long. It wasn't going to be very long. It was going to be really simple, straight to the point. It was going to follow Stephanie McMahon being the main antagonist, Anime being the main character, and Anime was going to try to stay in WWE essentially. And then maybe in the future I would continue the story and do something else with Anime involving a different antagonist later on. Still considering that, but I don't know if I will or not. We'll just have to wait and see when WWE 2K20 comes around and just how good the My Career mode for that is, you know. But regardless of that, it starts off just like the story that you see on YouTube started. Anime is in BCW and she wins a matchup to earn a contract to be in WWE, but she's going to start out in NXT. Stephanie's really cool with having her there. Anime goes to NXT. Everything's fine. Everything's great. Then when she gets to NXT, Buzz has caused some trouble on the main roster, getting into a fight with who we didn't know yet, but it was Baron Blade. Got into a fight with him, and he lost his contract. So then Anime is now being punished by proxies because they want to get rid of anyone from BCW, anyone from that promotion that's on the roster right now. So Stephanie's like, hey, every match that you have, your career is on the line. Anime, in the meantime, won her first match against Maria. Then she would beat Lacey Evans, Io Shirai, and eventually Shayna Baszler in a tournament to become the number one contender for the NXT Women's Championship. Once she wins that, she faces Bianca Belair at NXT TakeOver. What I was going to do, I was going to have Stephanie be ringside for the matchup and be like a manager or whatever. But judging by the views I was getting at the time, that ended up changing. But regardless, she was going to be the manager. It was going to make it harder for Anime to win the championship, and then Anime would just win regardless. So Stephanie, instead of continuing to try to, cost her matches and get rid of the championship, instead she says, all right, we're going to just sing it to the main roster. And so she has to lose the NXT championship. She gets stripped of it. Then Anime's like, look, I know where this is going. I've seen this before on TV. Let's just deal with this now. Let's get this out of the way. Let's have me and you have a matchup or whatever. And Stephanie's like, okay, you can have your match if you beat these 5 people. So she would go through a gauntlet, not in one night, just weeks on end. She would face different people. She would face just pretty much anybody I could think of. I was like, okay, Alexa Bliss, okay, Sasha Banks, Nia Jax, Bailey, and Ronda Rousey would be the last opponent, basically. She just faced a bunch of people and she would beat them, but then when she finally had to face Ronda Rousey would break her arm and make her tap with the armbar. So Anime would lose her job, she'd be fired. Stephanie would talk about it and gloat at the pay-per-view, and Anime would show up and attack Stephanie, and then she would be taken out of the building, be thrown out of the building. And then it would switch to her being in the Indies, and she would be wearing a metal sleeve on her arm, representing her losing her job in WWE, basically. Some cool subliminal messaging. I thought that would have been a cool thing to do. And she would dress up like Edward Elric from Full Metal Alchemist on the Indies and just keep winning matches left and right. And then eventually she would get sent back to WWE because she got so popular on the Indies. It would take a while. She'd become a champion in either a made-up indie promotion, or she would go to an actual indie promotion like Stardom or AEW or something. I didn't know what I was going to do yet, but I just kind of kept that on ice as I was getting through the series or whatever. Then she comes back to the main roster. She faces Ronda Rousey first, beats her, and then she gets Stephanie McMahon one-on-one at WrestleMania. And she would beat Stephanie, and the story would end. Really simple, just something fun to do, but instead that didn't happen because the series got so popular. I was like, I don't know if I want to just end this really quickly and abruptly. I'm pretty sure people are going to want to see more episodes, so I tried to just make it a longer story, and I was like, how can I do that? And this was at the 3rd episode when I was like, I think I can make this go longer, basically. And I thought about, what has she done so far that I can continue the story on? Well, she did help Toni Storm when she was getting attacked by Shayna Baszler. Maybe they go into the tag division together and they go after the tag belts. And we can do something with that and see where it goes from there. And that's what I did. But we'll talk about the original story later. We'll get into that later. So let's talk about the outfits here. And as you saw for the screenshot, first one we're going to talk about is the Rock Lee costume that Anime wore. Now, I made it myself. I know it wasn't like entirely accurate, but I did the best I could with it, basically. And I had Anime wear that because she was in a tournament, and it was her first tournament that she's ever been in. And I thought it would have been cool to have it kind of like the tuning exam since it's in NXT. And the winner would go on to face Bianca Belair for the NXT Women's Championship. So that's why Anime wore that costume. I think I even explained it in the episode too, or kind of mentioned it briefly. But yeah, it ended up getting torn up by Marina Shafir and Jessamine Duke, who hang with Shayna Baszler right before the final match. I thought it would have been a cool little thing to add there, just to add some heat to Shayna Baszler. Oh, you can't wear that costume, blah blah blah, get rid of it or whatever, you know? Just something interesting. Then when she faced Bianca Belair, she wore the Pokemon Yellow costume. You're probably like, what is the significance there? What is the importance of having her wear yellow when she's facing Bianca Belair? I don't really see it. I don't understand it. Well, the character Yellow in the manga for Pokemon was kind of like, she was just kind of good, but she wasn't really known for like being one of the best Pokemon trainers out there. She just kind of existed, basically. And it wasn't until she started facing like the other Pokemon trainers who were like really good, like Blue and Green and Red and Gold, when she started like encountering them, that's when she was taken a bit more seriously, and she was seeing kind of like, oh, she's really good. She's actually a really good Pokemon trainer. And she had her own little Pikachu or whatever and all that. So I was like, what if I have Anime wear that to be like, hey, she's being underestimated going into this battle against Bianca. I didn't think anybody would actually get that, but that's kind of like my line of thinking with it. I thought it would have been something cool to do. And if anyone had like read the manga before, maybe they could have noticed that as well. I don't know. And I only read the manga like in, I think, elementary school and then middle school as well. So I don't know if that's exactly how it went, but I think that's how it went. That's why I did it. So we go now into I think the next time she wore like an anime costume at all was when she finally faced Stephanie McMahon in the payoff episode, episode 9. She wore that Android 18 costume because previously she had completely destroyed, I skipped a costume, but we'll get to that. She completely destroyed Stephanie in the first match that they had with each other, and Stephanie didn't know it was her until like she got hit with one of Anime's moves, and she was like, oh, I recognize that move or whatever, and Anime just kind of beat her down. So it was supposed to be kind of a reference to when Android 18 and Hercule had to fight or whatever. So I thought that would have been a cool thing to do here. Cool thing to do here in this match where it's like, oh, she's going to get destroyed again because she's got the Android 18 costume. There's no way Stephanie's going to win. And then Stephanie actually fights back and it's like, oh, shit, Stephanie can go or whatever. And I don't know. Maybe people didn't like that because it's Stephanie McMahon. It's kind of like the whole Shane McMahon thing with him being the best in the world, air quotes or whatever. I can see that as why that could be kind of annoying. But people liked the video, so I guess there wasn't really any issues with it, I guess. But going back to the other costume that she wore when she faced Stephanie, that was a reference to Corey X Kenshin, one of the YouTubers that I really like watching. He hasn't been posting recently, but he did a Yandere series, and one of the costumes that he wore was like the anime schoolgirl outfit, but with the Dragon Ball Z hair. I thought that would have been a cool costume just to like, oh, here's an anime girl or whatever, just like anime, even though it actually is anime. Stephanie's like trying to make fun of her, and then she gets beat up by actual anime. I just thought that would have been cool. As for the Raw attire, I thought that was pretty self-explanatory because she's facing Toni Storm at Survivor Series, Raw versus SmackDown. It makes sense. The Suya attire was because she was introducing the Frog Splash as a signature move now So it would be the Suya Slash, and I was like, why not just have her wear gear that's kind of like paying homage to Suya? I wanted to do the full bodysuit or whatever, but it just looked really weird, and I was like, I'm just gonna do like a design kind of that's just similar to it. And I dyed her hair as well, and I think that was the only time I changed her hair color throughout the whole series. The next time I used a different attire, it was when I started having her wear black and white. I think I started doing this before, but I hadn't really said anything about it. But basically, the reason why I had the black and white there is because I can switch between the two instead of just having her do custom attires all the time. I just thought, what if I make it a long time before you ever see her do one again, and then when she does it again, it's like, oh hey, she brought back the customs, cool, you know what I mean? I thought that would have been a cool thing to do, a long little build up before I do it again. I also focus on her opponent's attires too. For Becky Lynch, it was just like changing it up because I didn't like her other attire. It's just really that simple. With Piper, when I changed her gear to the UK Women's Championship themed gear, it was because she was a UK Women's Champion. Makes sense. Toni Storm's gear was important as well. So in the beginning, she just wore the red, and then she wore the red, black, and white, just switching back and forth between the two. When she stopped hanging out with Anime, though, they turned into enemies or whatever. Toni Storm started wearing pink like Piper, so I thought that was a cool thing to do. And then she switched it up to white when she became neutral with Anime and with Piper. Like, she was like, I don't know who to trust anymore, but we'll figure it out as we go. And then eventually her and Anime were wearing the same colors, kind of symbolizing that everything's good again. I thought that was a cool thing to do as well, simply because for anyone who was kind of looking at it in like a deeper way, because I know with this supposed to be similar to like anime, but it's pro wrestling, I was like, maybe someone's going to try to, analyze things a bit more. And some people were, and we'll talk about that with the openings in a little bit and the names of the episodes too. But the last custom gear, no, I did two things. So last time she did like a anime costume, she wore the Ochako Uraraka. I don't know how to say her name. I might be saying that completely wrong. I'm sorry. But the reason she wore that is because it was a 4-person tournament, and in the My Hero Academia show, spoiler alert, Uraraka lost to Bakugo in the first round, and Anime was facing Bianca Belair in the first round. So I was like, what if she loses? Because I only did one take for both of those matches. Believe it or not, both of those matches were one take. So if either of them lost, I was just going to do another episode, and then Toni Storm and Anime would still face each other regardless if either of them ended up losing. So, and that would give Anime or Toni Storm a different match at WrestleMania. I guess I thought that would have been cool as well. And then I have them face each other. But yeah, it was only one take. But Anime ended up winning, so when her and Toni Storm faced each other, I had Toni Storm wear the blue SmackDown gear because that's when she beat Anime, and then I had Anime wear the white attire. It wasn't the same because the logos were the same. Oh no, they weren't the same. They were similar, but the design for the tights were different. I had I think I used the rusted design initially, but then I changed it and I used the wooden design instead. I was like, it's not going to be that serious, you know what I mean? It doesn't really matter too much. So I was like, I'll just have her just wear white, you know what I mean? Just kind of symbolize, hey, that's when she beat Toni Storm the first time, and then they go back and forth. That match was also one take, and Anime ended up winning that one, so that was really cool. And I called the episode the rubber match because of that. Now we talk about the openings and the titles for each of the episodes. I'm not going to talk about every single title. I'm just going to talk about the ones that were important in terms of the names. Everything was pretty much self-explanatory up until I got to I think an iconic moment, and that was pretty self-explanatory. Still Friends, episode 7. That was supposed to be me hinting at Toni Storm and Anime eventually no longer being friends. When that was going to happen, you didn't know, but it was like a teaser in the early going, just kind of like, hey, they're going to have a falling out. And I think everyone kind of expected that, but they just didn't know when it was going to happen. And it happened in a weird way, I'll give you that. It was kind of weird how it was set up or whatever. But I think it ended up working out for the better because of all the cool moments that we got afterwards. Ups and Downs, episode 15, where Dana Brooke pretty much got buried and Anime lost to Toni Storm. Like, Dana Brooke cashed in after Anime lost to Toni Storm. I wanted her to cash in on Toni, but she cashed in on Anime, so I was like, alright, we'll just roll with it, whatever, cool. So, they have their little match, and it was supposed to be like, after facing Toni Storm, Anime realizes she's got to change it up a bit, and she has a hard time beating Dana Brooke, and she refuses to lose because her championship is on the line, so she's fighting like harder than ever. It's got like this fighting spirit going, which has been kind of hinted at throughout the whole series, where she would have a match where she struggles and somehow always comes back. Kind of like a Mary Sue character. That's not what I wanted her to be, but she was kind of turned into that slowly, so I ended up changing that too. But that's what that episode was, basically. Her just kind of learning that it's only going to get harder from here. The Time Paradox episode where Toni Storm faced Lita and Anime faced Trish Stratus and Alexa Bliss. Now that episode was weird. I called it Time Paradox because Lita and Trish were like fighting like as good as ever. They were like insanely OP, so it was like they were younger basically. But no, they didn't go back in time or anything. No time machines were involved. I was like, maybe I should do that. That'd be pretty crazy. But it seemed like people were liking it when it was just like wrestling. So I was like, okay, I'm not gonna go too crazy. I'm just gonna keep it short and sweet. The Where Were You episode, I'm pretty sure when people clicked on that, no one really knew what was gonna happen, but it made sense. It was basically referencing Anime not being there on the main roster. Now she's in the indie circuit, and Toni Storm is getting punished left and right by Stephanie. So she's like, where's my friend? Why is my friend not helping me? She didn't even know Anime even left because Anime was answering her calls, which led to them splitting up. True Colors, episode 23 and episode 24, Lost It, were pretty simple. True Colors was where, like, that's when Toni Storm finally figured out that Piper wasn't who she was saying she was. She actually wanted something else. She was in it for something else. Other than their friendship and being, trying to, build the women's division and all that, she was more so in it for herself. And Toni Storm realized that, and that's why Toni Storm went from wearing pink to white, and then eventually she started wearing similar colors to Anime, or Anime wore similar colors to her, or whatever. And then in Lost It, it was representing Stephanie going absolutely crazy and wanting to fight Anime one last time because she lost her mind. So I had Nikki Cross showed up in there as well because it made sense. The Pipe Strikes Back was a reference to The Empire Strikes Back, yes, and she was like getting revenge on everybody. Because I noticed on the build to her facing Anime or Toni Storm or Bianca Belair, she was kind of like getting the short end. She was doing some cool stuff, but she never got to like really show her dominance aside from on Bianca Belair. So I had her attack everybody else and then team up with Team Kick, which I thought was a nice feature. Unsettling Differences, episode 27, was a reference to Kevin Owens' theme song, because while I was making the episode, I kept replaying that over and over. So I was like, well, everybody's got differences in the two matches that I'm having here on NXT TakeOver, so why not call it that? I thought it was an interesting name. I don't know. But let's talk about the openings now. So all the openings were pretty simple. The first one was just like, oh, here's Anime, this is what she does, and it was supposed to be like a cool little reference to like Japan, I guess, so I had that music in the background or whatever. It was a really cool intro, I think. And then as it went on, it was just like kind of highlighting the previous moments in the previous episodes before the new intro would come out. And then it would like hint as to what might happen in this episode. Oh, what is it going to be focused on? It's going to be focused on Anime now trying to adapt to the main card, after finally getting her opportunity to go there or whatever. And then now she's teaming with Toni Storm. What are they going to do? And then now Anime is on her own again and Toni Storm's on her own. And then now Anime and Toni Storm are no longer friends in intro 5. I know I skipped one. It's pretty much the same for 3 and 4. But on the 5th one, Anime and Toni Storm not being friends anymore. I thought it was cool to have Anime in the intro again by herself and not having Toni Storm in it at all. And then when they became friends again, they were in the intro together again. Makes sense, I think. Pretty linear. Now we can talk about the matches and the story that happened. So all of the matches, basically what I wanted to do with those, I wanted them to be not the absolute best, because if all of them were the absolute best, it would be really hard to like end it, basically. Like, how could I surprise you with any cool moments or whatever, because you've already seen everything, you know what everyone else does. So I tried to build story through the matches. So in every match, Anime, not every single time, but she would basically set up her finisher or win in a different way. So when you get to the final match or the big pay-per-view matches that would happen, you'd be like, oh, she did this move, she's gonna go into this move next, you know, because you're used to seeing her do certain things. And then when she changes it, it's like, oh, cool, that was unique. Kind of like in real wrestling. That's what I was trying to do. I don't think I did a good job at it, but I tried my best to keep it from being repetitive. I did the same thing with Toni Storm, and I also tried to mix it up with her opponents as well. Also, as you saw right there, I didn't let Toni Storm pin Piper. There were some moments in matches where I was like, I can't let it end like that. It didn't happen with the matches that were like one take, but with the what was a good example? With Toni Storm, no, with Anime versus Stephanie McMahon, I hit Stephanie with a signature move after she went through the cell, and she kicked out again anyways without having resiliency, and I was like, dude, what the fuck? I'm not gonna end it like that, what the hell? She can't be looking that strong now, come on now. So I would go ahead and redo it. Or when Toni Storm faced Asuka, Asuka wasn't countering anything, and like it did the squash match thing, so I had to go back and fix that. I didn't want anyone to get truly buried. I wanted every match to be kind of intense. There were some opponents that you saw her face and it was like, oh, well, I know Anime is going to win. I know Toni Storm is going to win this matchup, and that's fine. It doesn't really, to me in wrestling, it doesn't matter if you know who's going to win. It matters how they do it, basically. That's just how it goes, I think. Like we saw with Becky Lynch versus Natalya. I think everybody was pretty sure that Becky Lynch was going to win, but it was in Toronto, so what are they going to do? So when they faced each other at SummerSlam and it was like, oh, Becky might actually lose, that was really nice for them to do, and that's what I tried to do here, you know? I tried to build suspense, essentially. I didn't want it to be super obvious who was going to win or what was going to happen and all that. Even though in some cases it still ended up being that way. As for the main story, what ended up happening. So we already talked about how it all was going to begin, and it was pretty much the same as it described for the original story. So I don't want this video to go on for too long, so for these episodes I'm just going to go through the ones that are important, the ones that I can really analyze. The first three are important because the first one is where I'm trying to teach you guys about Anime and like her style of offense, her moveset and all that, and what she wants to do and the kind of person that she is. So in the first three episodes, that's basically what it's all about. She's kind of like an underdog. After a while, I kind of realized that the underdog story would have been kind of repetitive. So eventually I wanted her to beat Stephanie McMahon, as I had already said earlier for the original story. But now that it's changed, I needed her to beat Stephanie quickly or as soon as possible. But I wanted to be like a payoff kind of thing. So I wanted you guys to like really understand that, hey, Stephanie is the enemy and we need to beat her or whatever. And what is Stephanie's motives? She really doesn't like Anime, not Anime the person, she doesn't like Anime like the medium of entertainment. So because Stephanie is pretty much Anime is pretty much the embodiment of that, Stephanie is doing whatever she can to take out Anime. It's not even just about buzz, it's about what Anime is about. Eventually, she hates Anime because when they finally face each other, Anime puts her through a cell and, you know, basically almost ended her career. So Stephanie's just kind of like, you know what? You're kind of a prick now. I don't like you at all. You know, you could have killed me and putting me through the cell or whatever. So now I'm never going to let that go. But she's injured, so she can't get involved. But during the build up to that, I also introduced other plot elements. I wanted each character to have their own story that was going to be involved in the end. And I knew that I wanted Bianca to be involved in the end, Toni Storm, and I wanted Anime to be involved, and I wanted Stephanie to be involved. I didn't know about Piper just yet, but that's what I wanted to do from the beginning. And I thought it would have been poetic for Anime to stay undefeated, and then she would lose to Bianca at like WrestleMania or something. I don't know. I didn't know if I was really going to do that or not, but that was just kind of something I kept in the vault for a while I had Toni Storm and Anime working together. For Toni Storm, when she was first introduced, we saw her get like jumped, or like we saw she was about to get jumped by Shayna, but she also got cheated out of a victory against Shayna the first time we saw her. So when she had Anime come out to help her, she was like, this is a person who I can get behind. She's kind of like me. She wants to do things the right way. She cares about the women's division being elevated. She wants to be the champion. I like someone to have there by my side, that kind of energy. So I want to hang out with Anime more. So she tried to be around her more to not only repay her, but to also to have a friend in the company, because she knew there was only so many people to deal with on her way to the top. So why not have an ally along the way? She couldn't have Piper because Piper was in NXT UK, and Toni moved to regular NXT after losing the championship to Piper. But I never said that. I just kind of focused on Toni Storm doing her own thing. I didn't say that until later, actually. But anyways, Anime becomes the ace, basically, because she keeps winning, and that was kind of like her gimmick. So it was kind of building to her finally facing Bianca, but I didn't know when I was going to do that still. So she wins the tournament, and then she faces Becky Lynch. Meanwhile, I had like a few plots going on here. Not only was she about to face Becky Lynch, but Toni Storm is now the SmackDown Live Women's Champion. So at Survivor Series, either Becky Lynch or Toni is going to be either Anime or Becky Lynch is going to be facing Toni Storm at Survivor Series. But who's it going to be? I was going to be fine with Toni Storm, with Anime losing to Becky Lynch if it was like by submission or something like that, because I could just build her up after she finally loses against Becky Lynch. But because she ended up winning, I was like, okay, now we get the rematch between her and Toni Storm. It's going to be a really cool matchup to have, I think. We'll see how this one plays out. What I wanted to do was have Anime have the same moves that she had last time when she faced Toni Storm on SmackDown, and Toni Storm would have some new moves to bring out. She didn't really use her new moves, but Toni Storm ended up beating Anime because Anime was using the same stuff, and Anime realized that. But as she was starting to realize that, she gets cashed in on by Bianca. And it was supposed to be like a little scare tactic where I'm like, hey, now that she's lost here, now she's just going to go all down here. But no, she finds a way to win anyway. And it was supposed to be like, this is a big pivotal moment for the character here, because she realizes now, I gotta really grind here now that I'm the champion, because there are people who are going to be coming for me everywhere, and I could lose my championship at any time, basically. So now it's kind of like, now she feels threatened, and she's got to learn, and she's got to make up some new moves. So when she beats Shayna Baszler at Clash of Champions, it's supposed to be like her past is coming back to haunt her. But not only that, she's also, like, it's hinting basically at Stephanie might return or whatever. It was like, all these people are coming back, so Stephanie might do something. So Stephanie decides, I'm not going to face you. I'm going to have you face some wrestlers from the past, like Lita and Trish and all that. So she ends up facing Trish, but Alexa Bliss kind of weasels her way into getting another title opportunity because she's salty that she lost to Anime. Kind of like Alexa Bliss's character, whatever. I just thought it would be a cool thing to have her do that. But thinking about it in hindsight, maybe I should have just done a one-on-one matchup. But everybody seemed to like triple threat, so I guess everything is okay in that regard. Eventually, I'm like, I don't want this to get repetitive. I need to change something up. And I knew I wanted Anime to go back to the Indies, but I didn't know when. I was like, you know what? Now is the perfect time. She goes back to the Indies. She's facing freaking Brittany Omega. She's facing Rima Isabella. And she's just going around the world. And then she goes to BCW, where she meets Baron Blade again. But she's facing Baron Blade's daughter, Betty Blade, which I thought would have been a cool thing to do. And I just wanted her to go through that real quick and just kind of have fun with it. It was just supposed to be a fun part of the series, and y'all seem to like it, so I guess it all worked out. And then she comes back, and Toni Storm and her are no longer friends. And it's kind of like me finally hitting the climax of all this. And now we're trying to see where this is going to go. The folly action being Toni Storm and Anime finally become friends again because they realize that Piper is working with Stephanie. They get everybody out of the way by defeating Stephanie, Bianca Belair, and Piper, where they can finally have their one-on-one matchup at WrestleMania. And it was really cool. I was fine with whoever won that one. Like I said, it was pretty much one take, and ended up ending with Anime winning, coming out on top. Will I do another Anime Dirty Adventure series? Maybe not, but I can't say this is the last that you've seen of her. She will be back. and hopefully you guys are there when it happens.